Hello and welcome to Dukascopy TV. I'm Alex Isat and joining me today is the president of EverBank, Chuck Butler. Chuck has a long career within the financial industry and is the father of the Daily Finning, a popular resource for currency investors and traders alike. Thank you for joining me today, Chuck. Last week, the US dollar, Hong Kong dollar, fell to its lowest level since the end of 2012. Economists sat up and took notice when the HKD fell to 7.75, the lower bound of its trading band versus the USD. Combined with social unrest in the region, the one question which was on everybody's lips was, is the peg under threat? Chuck, what are your thoughts?
I really don't think that the peg is under threat. I mean, basically the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which acts like a central bank for Hong Kong, has reaffirmed its commitment to maintain the Hong Kong dollar's peg to the U.S. dollar for another 5 years. Now, I don't know that that's, enough to defend outright the peg, but they do have good policy freedom and financial resources to do so. So I don't think that the peg is any serious threat of being broken here.
Are there any reasons why the Hong Kong dollar has strengthened?
The Hong Kong dollar has not really weakened or strengthened in this period of time that things have gone on. I mean, even its association to the dollar doesn't really bring it down, because the peg to the dollar doesn't mean that it moves on a one-for-one to the dollar. It stays in the peg means that it stays in a range. So, for example, since in the past 12 years, the dollar has lost a lot of ground to currencies like the Aussie dollar, which is up 86%, Kiwi is up 110%, the euro is up 53%, and even the renminbi, or the yuan, whichever one you want to use, it's still the same currency, which broke the peg to the dollar in July of 2005. It's gained about 33% against the dollar, but the honker has only gained about 0.61% during all that time. So it hasn't really gained or lost. It stays in this very tight range, and it just doesn't move.
Chuck, last year you wrote an article about the peg being under threat, and once again the peg is being discussed. Could this be an annual occurrence for the currency pair?
I really do think that, and I've said for quite a few years that I believe that eventually when China is ready to float their currency, and that won't be until they open up their capital account more and they have a wider distribution of their currency. But when they're ready to do so, I think that's when they'll put pressure on the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to break the peg in the honker, because it'd be much easier for China to watch how a much smaller country, if you will, deals with a currency going from a peg to a float, and seeing how the markets react to it, how the central bank works with the floating currency, and stuff like that. And then after a successful run with the floating honker, then I think China would allow their currency to float. And then within a couple of years of all that, I think they'll just fold the honker into the renminbi and they'll just be one happy currency.
China's GDP figures are out today. Do you believe that they will have any effect on the currency?
I think that the GDP coming out this week is going to be probably softer, but I don't know that it's going to have that much of an effect on the currency. The Chinese have been using the renminbi this year as a tool to wean the markets off of the thought that they put in that the currency was just going to be a one-way street up, in value. And so they've been marking it down. It's really weird that they move it up for 2 days and then they mark it down for 3 days, and they move it up for 3 days and then they mark it down for 2 days. So they're managing the float, and I don't think that the GDP is going to have that much to do with what where they decide they want the currency to be on that day.
Finally, what, if any, are your major concerns regarding the GDP figures?
No, I don't think as long as the current peg is in place, the honker is not going to appreciate at a large clip against the dollar. Right now, since in the last 12 years, the range for the honker has been less than, here I can give it to you in numbers. it's in U.S. terms, it would be 0.1277 cents to 0.1290 cents. So we're talking about a very, very small range. That's what, as long as the peg's in place, that's the kind of range you're going to see.
Thank you for your insight today, Chuck. That is all we have time for, but keep checking back for up-to-the-minute market data. Goodbye.